Fine. Fine.
Yeah, man. Look at that.
Oh my
International
goodness.
man of
I can't believe you used that picture. That was me when I was, what, 20 something?
That was yesterday, Stu. Yesterday.
Yeah, that was on Thursday last week.
Oh boy.
That's a mighty fine picture. We could
A
have
long
used
time
the
ago.
remember the Obi-Wan collage from COVID days? The
Yeah.
pandemic. You had the beard coming in every
miss it
week.
so
We saw the
much.
progression.
I miss it so
pretty good.
much. My wife will never allow me to do that
Oh
again.
yeah.
That's it.
You seriously, you miss that beard?
I do. It was great. Not having to shave in the morning. I have to shave every day, man. Just letting it just chill.
You have to shave every day?
You did the David Letterman.
Wow. Okay. Listen, I only shave once a week because I can't really
bonkers,
grow
Rob.
much.
Me and Stu as Asians are offended. You have offended me, and you've offended my family.
Why? Why?
Because you should be able to grow the nice, big, bushy.
Yeah, I can't.
I always
I got
wanted the
nothing.
Aquaman beard.
It honestly, Rob, within I could start a full like 5 o'clock. Like it could turn very quickly. So yeah, I have to shave every day.
Wow.
Or yeah.
Wow.
Or at least I'll have that 80s mustache that will go on. Like it,
yeah,
like
really,
the one that says you're not allowed at like local parks.
Yeah. The one that says I'm I'm some sort of boxer. If I drew the mustache, probably able to go on Tim's podcast. I could probably go in there as an MMA fighter and it would fit in right in with that dirty mustache. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to the Sidekick Show. I am Rob Gadet. On the far side of the screen is John Ho, and we have our special guest for this week, the one and only Stew Pei, who, if you are a long-time fan of this show or the Heroes World podcast, you would know that Stu was the MC. He was the guy, the backbone of the pandemic podcasting that was done with Heroes World. So
the originator. The originator.
Yeah,
there would be no Heroes World CU or whatever cinematic.
This is this is version 2, John. We tried it at the beginning.
HPU, Heroes World Podcast Universe.
Yeah. We've tried several times to incarnation of the podcast, and really it's been me being delinquent because, as you know, I'm a union member because I got my card as in working at the Super Dave Osborne show. I was Mr. Fuji's kid. And I got an actor card and I couldn't really work anymore. And that led me to a stint in the Canadian Union where I did a stint on Danger Bay. So then I was like, yo, man, I can't work and do anything right now. So I'm glad the strike is over. I'm glad I can talk about projects again. So there we are. Thank you. Thank you for having me. That's happens.
Wow, that's a full-fledged Canadiana right there.
Yeah. Fun fact: Super Dave filmed at Unionville Theater. There you go. That's
really.
Yep.
Oh man, Super Dave Osborne.
Super Dave Osborne. This bit where he fell off the. For those of you who don't know, jumped on memory lane. If you go on YouTube, there's a bit where he jumps off the CN Tower, and you can see all the lower. Well, you used to be able to park at the bottom of CN Tower, just a parking lot, and you can see before all the stuff being developed behind there. But it's absolutely crazy. You look and you're like, wow, there's nothing in downtown Toronto. Yeah, and this is just before that. So before all the
that was like 85-ish, I think, or so, because they started building the dome around 86 or so, because it opened up in 88, right? So
yeah.
Did you guys ever watch the cartoon? Super Dave Osborne cartoon? Yeah.
I always preferred the live stuff though.
John, it was between that and Pro Stars with Wayne Gretzky, Bo Jackson, and Michael Jordan.
I think that only had one episode, dude.
No, had a season. Had a season.
And a cereal.
Yes, I remember that episode. Wayne Gretzky, they had to protect the Stanley Cup, so it was a whole episode based on that. This is the thing. All right, let's get to
have episodes where one of them would be just completely missing. I guess they couldn't do the voice for that episode, and then they'd be like,
"It wasn't really John. Spoiler alert! It wasn't them doing the acting. It was other people." So it's fine. It wasn't really Wayne Gretzky. The guy that was doing the voice was like a surfer. So I'm like, oh, that guy really sounds like he's from Ontario. Never mind, he's California surfer dude, bro. Yeah.
So again, thank you for those who are joining us live. For those who are listening after the fact, whether it's through your iTunes podcast, Spotify, or Amazon podcast, you can join us live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So today we're just going to kind of just chat a little bit about the things that we may have seen in the past week. And then we're going to have a quick deep dive into Stew's past, about how he became who he is today. Who is Stew Pei? And then we're going to talk about the big news.
Who's this
which
man
we're
of
finally
mystery?
glad to actually start having news again, and not just talking about John's bunions. We're actually going to be talking about the fact that the strike is over. The Hollywood strike is over. And what is next? What does that mean? What announcements do we think will be forthcoming, or have some already been made? And we're going to discuss those as well. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining in. Hey, John.
Hey, what's up, Rob?
Hey, buddy. How are you? Oh, and we got stuff with that new in the store as well. Hey, John, what did you do this past week? What have you watched? What have you done with your time?
You know what I did, Rob? You know how last week we talked a little bit about RoboCop, or I don't know if it was the week before. Stu, I don't know if you remember the RoboCop, the series, the TV show.
Of course, I remember the series.
It is available for free on Plex. You know that Plexi app. So I watched it, the debut episode. I didn't even make it through. It's like 2 hours long, and RoboCop is barely in it because they didn't have the budget to put him like in it all the time. So it's like all these other people in the show. But the funniest thing in the episode is when he's going around breaking up a crime scene. There's a guy. He doesn't actually shoot anybody. So he does the old Ninja Turtle thing where, or Wolverine thing where you have to cut something else down. So he shoots at the feet of a bookshelf and it falls on the bad guy. It was the funniest thing I ever saw. But the show is absolute trash.
Of course it is.
So yeah, no, I couldn't do it.
Those
and then
syndicated shows that were based on those movies. Okay, so you
Yeah.
had RoboCop. What was
Whoa,
worse?
whoa. There's only one that matters.
Yeah.
Do you know which one it is?
You're not gonna say The Crow.
No.
Okay, good, because that was pretty crap too.
Filmed in Vancouver as well as in Paris.
Oh, Highlander.
Here we are. Born to be
Stu's-
kings.
yeah, Stu's
We're the
jam is
princes of
Highlander.
the universe. Dude, that Highlander show was awesome.
Okay.
It was still they did what they could. They expanded the universe. They added in the Four Horsemen. They added in like really interesting, like I think it was Mythos. It was like one of the oldest guys who hid in plain sight. The whole gimmick of like, I'm a watcher. Anyways, it's one of the best. I think
It was
season
long-
one
it was
they
long
filmed
running,
in Paris, and the rest of it they filmed in Vancouver. But Highlander was a good one.
Well, every time you say the Four Horsemen, I think of Arn Anderson. I think of Ric Flair.
Yes.
Okay, so wait, what was the worst? Okay, so yes, so somebody also in the chat said Stargate series. Okay, so Stargate, Highlander.
Oh yeah, Stargate.
But
Yeah.
here, you guys tell me what was worse? Ready? The RoboCop series, The Crow, or Blade?
I feel like The Crow and Blade we didn't get to really see over here. Blade was a Spike TV show, guys, with Sticky Fingers as Blade.
Right.
Onyx Flame, slam. And then the Mark Dukakis Crow. I think they redid the whole movie in their pilot episode. It was called Crow Stair to Heaven. I feel like we didn't actually get to see much of those. So the RoboCop we saw the most of, and I think that for sure is the worst. I don't know, Stu, what do you think?
I have a special place in my heart for RoboCop because it's filmed in Toronto and Hamilton. So like exact same thing. I'm like, oh, I know these places. Like it's a good time capsule watching these things, and you're like, oh, I remember. It's kind of like watching The Incredible Hulk when he's running down Yonge Street. You're like, yes, the Zanzibar. In those moments, you're like, I know this pretty well. It's like, they're running through UFT. I'm like, all right, cool. Like there are moments in that film that really did sing, but it's got to be like Blade and the Crow, because somehow CBC / like international money, you got a little bit of money. Those Spike TV shows had it was the cheapest of budgets. They were somehow worse than all of the CW TV shows in terms of budget, in terms of actors, in terms of everything. They were really, really poor.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say
because that would be slotted in between Slam Ball and Pro versus Joe's. So.
Bros versus Joes.
I remember there was that one thing where like it's like, oh, can you catch a slant play run 10 yards? You're like, oh, it's no big deal. And then Jerry Rice was the guy that was covering you, and Jerry Rice was like 45. He was just so smoking dudes running down and like boop, knocking guys out of the hands. Like you couldn't even catch like a 10-yard slant run. Jerry Rice running, the best receiver of all time, wasn't even catching the ball. You're just knocking it out of people's hands. I was like, yeah, that's the one.
So I know it's been a while, Stu, but generally we don't do sports in this podcast because
Okay,
John
got
has no.
Except for
We
Moneyball,
don't
right?
sports.
Moneyball.
Even still, John doesn't know. That's why we have to always bring Chris in when we talk about Moneyball.
Oh, but he does know about Pros versus Joes. So that's the one.
Spike TV. I remember watching a lot of Spike TV, trying to give it a go. It was really
yeah.
up there in the channel echelon.
Yeah, like, okay, well, let's look at. We forgot the big one because someone's gonna remind us. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, based on the movie. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Westworld, which turned really bad, but for the first season, incredible.
Oh, it was such an amazing first season.
Star Trek. It was a TV show first, so I'm not gonna count it. Fargo. The TV show is much better than the movies, at least particular seasons.
But the three things aside from Blade being on Spike, the other two were on syndication. So that was kind of my caveat there.
Yeah, and I think that and then I think we have to all think about where does Cobra Kai fit in this, because I think we like Karate Kid, but Karate Kid's not that good really, and Cobra Kai has its moments.
Yeah, especially Cobra Kai. The first two seasons are so much better than they have any business.
I am calling you out right now because you are a ride or die for every season of Cobra Kai. I'm like, man, season 5 wasn't that great. No, John. And John's like, what are you talking about? It was fire, guy. It was fire.
No, Chosen
and ridiculous.
And Johnny hanging out. All right, anyways.
All right.
I do respect the call out to Stargate, because I think Stargate is probably the most successful, because it did 11 seasons. And then Stargate
it was a life of its own, right?
With 5 seasons with Jason Momoa, and then that revived his career. And then Stargate Universe, so that's probably the one that did the best. Buffy 7 seasons and hit or miss, and then Angel, which I think is the superior product. So there's some good TV shows that I think, but Highlander also is great in its moments, but it's also very ghetto. So,
all right, John, let's keep going. What else did you watch this past week?
I dusted off Taken. Have you guys watched Taken in a minute? That movie's fun. Liam Neeson going on a tear. With the speech. The speech still is a home run.
Which Taken are we talking about? 1, 2, 3?
They're all the same.
RoboCop was on. No, the first one is clearly head and shoulders above the other two.
Yes, of course. Yeah, number 2 is exactly the same, and number 3 is just role reversal. It's the same movie, though.
You could say that. You could say that also about John Wick. They're all the same.
Yeah, no, you know what? Not everyone blends 2 and 3. 2 and 3 get blended together. But yeah, that was all I got to do. I didn't get to watch any new stuff, unfortunately, guys.
All right. Well,
I'm sure Stu's more up to date.
So the big thing is that Loki finished, right? Yeah. So it finished its second season. It seems to have gotten a lot more critical praise than season 1. So I'm assuming, Stu, that you have seen it. Would you agree? I've seen it as well. So would you agree with that, with the praise is being heaped upon it by critics?
I think the bar is so low that, of course, I just think that
stepping over it.
The bar is not low. The bar is Secret Invasion, and then it's low.
Yeah,
and then
it's kind of like
a hole in the ground to put the bar for Secret Invasion.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I talk to my some of my coworkers that are younger than me, and they're like, I just want the dude to have a job, like a full-time job. I'm like, that's the bare minimum now. It's like, can you just have a job and not be part-time or not be, a side producer or like a recording? It's like just a solid financial stability is all I'm looking for in life. So yeah, I think I really enjoyed the story and completing. I think they have a very difficult task because as Jonathan Majors was incredible. Like this season, he was really good, and you're just inevitably stuck with this thing of what the heck do you do with Kang and the one, all that whole storyline. But I can see the potential of why they chose, because he's a tremendous actor, and the choices he makes are really interesting, more so than anyone else in the Marvel universe has done. Like really doing interesting choices, which can't be said for everyone else, but. I have some theories about what's going to happen later on once we get to the strike talk, but I'm a little concerned about just all movies and TV shows in general based on some of the stuff coming down the line. But I enjoyed it. I'm glad that they wrapped it up. They kind of made it seem like this is the storyline of Tom Hiddleston, and he's hanging his horns. And I'm like, wait, what? So we'll see. This could be a big misdirection. As we saw, Hugh Jackman said, "I'm done," and just like every '80s movie, he's like, "I'm back." Like, Dylan walks in the room, is like, "Dylan, what do you mean?" And then boom, back. He's so yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've always said this week after week when we've been on the show here, is that I don't think Loki as a character lent any gravitas to the plot of the series. It could have been anybody in that role. Like, it could have been Steve Rogers, right? It didn't make it except for the very end.
I disagree with you because I think at the last episode it pulled all the threads together that made this. And that's what it gave you, a real emotional tying the bow together. And I think that's one of the issues that we could talk about, why we both watched Ms. Marvel, and there's missing that emotional through line, and you don't feel like you're happy everything works out, but you're like, it's kind of like a hollow like chocolate bar. You're like, oh, it's very sweet, and then you're like, okay, great. Right. But I want a little more something else to it.
So Stu and I did see the Marvels this past weekend. I think we can both agree that Iman Vellani is fantastic. She absolutely steals the movie, and you're gonna see read a lot about that, or see that on your websites, your Twitter feeds, or whatever. That it's not hyperbole. Like, she legit owns this movie. And so I do also think that it's getting I guess the tepid response, I don't think is necessarily, I think people should be seeing it first before making a decision. And my suggestion would be, I think it's worthwhile if we're not going to discuss the movie because people may not have seen it. And based on the box office numbers, that's probably true. But if you haven't seen it, I would recommend going out and seeing it.
And I think that we have to be very cognizant that people are saying, oh, it's the lowest and blah, blah, blah. Let's wait and see about this drop off, because typically a movie of this type of stature, the Marvel movies make all their money week one, everyone goes, and then there's like a 60%, 80% drop off week two. Yeah. This could be a situation where it doesn't really drop off, and if it just continues, it could be just like a lot of those other movies that just kept on trucking along, making $20 million each week, and so on and so forth, and overnight. Just like the Hugh Jackman musical, the one that happened where he was what was it, Barnum and Barum or whatever, the Greatest Show. The Greatest Show. Like, that movie just every week was like 20, 20, 20, 20. Yeah. And by the time people were like, oh my God, how much does this movie make? So I think there needs to be some sort of calibration, and just like Elemental, where everyone was like, it's not that great. The viewing numbers on Disney Plus have been incredible. It's continuing just to be very successful on the platform. So we just have to look at redefining what that is, and look at the end game in terms of overall like revenue, and go from there. Like, again, they couldn't promote it. We couldn't do stuff. There wasn't an opportunity. And I think that Iman, if she's as delightful in person as she is on TV, like she would have crushed and I feel bad because she missed out on going like on Colbert and all the fun stuff and tour that goes along with it. Yeah. And yeah, she was, again, Rob, like you said, a breath of fresh air, and the person clearly was there for the love of the game. And I have to question some of the people in the movie. I'm like, were you just collecting paychecks? So definitely it was But cool. Anyway, it's a fun time. I totally recommend watching it. You'll go out of it just, like, hey, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay, and before I was going to quickly jump into a couple of big trailers that were dropped this week. Avatar: The Last Airbender for the Netflix, I believe it's a series. Yep. It dropped its trailer, as well as Ghostbusters. They have a new trailer, and for the life of me right now, I can't think of what it's called.
I think it's called Frozen Empire or Frozen something. Empire,
like that. So those trailers dropped this week. I personally think the Ghostbusters one looks great. I'm kind of I like the last one that came out. It'll be interesting to see how they are able to.
You have no soul if you didn't like that last one.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we talked
There you go.
about
See,
it. I think we talked about it. It was fine. It was fine.
You have no heart.
It's such a big tonal shift, but it's because you had 4 actors, 3 of whom at the top of their game between Dan Aykroyd, like Harold Ramis, and like Bill Murray, and you can't expect these kids to basically trump in and be as fantastic as these 3 guys who are just crushing and have years of comedic experience.
Yeah,
so it's just such a different ride that you just have to just say, hey, let's just go on a different kind of path. And you can see them leaning on, Paul Rudd and other actors, because you can't expect those kids to do it. It's just, it's not fair.
yeah. Actually, I just saw a couple people mentioned Reacher. I don't know how I forgot the Reacher trailer came out.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Trailer overload.
The problem is that they're releasing the first 3 episodes, and then the rest will drop weekly. So as per normal, I will wait until it's all dropped, and then I will.
Well, it's no surprise with strike finished, everything's dropping at once. They're like, let's all start claiming dates and putting the content out. Even just the trailer, not even a trailer, just like the hey, Umbrella Academy final season. Here we are doing a table read. I'm like, whoa, Umbrella Academy. All right, final season. So it's one of those things where everyone's trying to jam that stuff out quickly while you can.
Okay, so we still have lots to talk about stuff that's new in the store this week.
What about Monarch comes out this week too?
Right. The Godzilla TV series.
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus that has Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt playing the same character, obviously.
U.S. agent himself.
Yeah. So yeah, that new trailer did come out, and that comes out on, I think, on Friday it drops. Right?
Yeah, 2 episodes. Apparently, like, the reviews have been very kind in terms of the scale, the CGI. Like, they did it right. And I think they were just, it looks incredible. So we'll see. That's kind of one of those large kind of things they've been building, because even we can go back to that Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson King Kong movie where they Monarch. You're like, that's Samuel L. Jackson. I'm like, oh yeah, that was also a part of this King Kong Godzilla universe. So that was also, people forgot that was a movie too. Okay,
but before we get into all of that, Stu, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. Clearly, I'm ranting about it.
So we haven't seen Stu. Here's a fun fact, guy. Stu, I consider you a friend.
Yeah,
you and I have lots of good chats. Fun fact: you and I have never seen each other in person.
Nope. I think we could have once or twice, because I've been in the store so often. You could have just rolled on in, but we never formally like shook hands and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" But yeah, I was definitely. Like Barry from High Fidelity, there was a time where I was just at the store all the time, just sitting there, hanging out, doing things, even behind the counter. And John's like, "Yeah, just let him just do this," and I would just sit there for hours at a time talking to people. So yeah, there might be a time when we intersected.
Yeah, man. So you and I are roughly the same age. I think we're both a little bit older than John. Although you might not.
No, I think I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
I'm the youngest. Sorry. I'm the tallest, but I'm definitely the youngest.
A freak of nature, 7'3", but I like we want to like the worst. But yeah, the door jams are horrible.
You know what we could buy for Christmas? Those platform shoes that Robert Downey wears. Makes
Ron DeSantis wears. Is that what you're saying? The one that Ron DeSantis is wearing? And
no. Well, also Ron. But Robert Downey wore it to not look so short, like next to Chris Hemsworth, who. It's huge.
So Stu, like, tell us about your journey, man. Where, like, what, I could be wrong. I get the sense that your, if you want to say your nerd journey, your geek journey starts more with television and movies than it does with comics. Is that an accurate?
Yeah. So as a kid, I had a lot of allergies as a kid, and I didn't really understand how to articulate that I'm allergic to the outside world. So I just never wanted to go outside. So I became like an indoor kid, as Kumail Nanjiani would say. And a lot of the times we're just watching and playing video games with my brother. So we just hang out and do that and friends. A lot of that was just, we had the luxury of having a TV and the 2 TVs in the basement. So if something was playing cable, and my parents illegally, now it's whatever. But now we had the black box, so I had all these channels that I shouldn't have had access to. Yeah. So it kind of enabled us to get like, but kids don't know this. The movie channel was the thing that we had. We could watch
movie channel.
There was movie channel 1, movie channel 2, movie channel 3, and then as we progressed in high school, we got access to Space, the Imagination Station, as well as the Comedy Channel and whatnot, and A&E and stuff. So that really became formative as I kind of grew a little older, as I was playing Japanese RPGs and playing Street Fighter and stuff like that. Having that other TV show in the background, so it was like TNG at like 3, then it was like Voyager and Deep Space Nine at like 5, 6. So it was all that kind of stuff going on. So yeah, Rob, to your point, there was a lot of sci-fi that I really kind of fell into and watched a lot as a kid, and just kind of fell down the rabbit hole. It's funny because my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, has definitely gone to like the more like even more art house than where I go, and you already know that I watch already the weirdest movies. He goes even farther. Like he's like Kurosawa, like spaghetti westerns. Like he's really deep.
He's like a cinephile.
Like he's a real cinephile. So much so that when I talk about Turner Movie Classic, he basically is like, only lowbrow people watch Turner. I'm watching Criterion, and I'm like, oh right, Criterion. I'm just a savage doing it. So yeah.
What got you like hooked on that? Was that like a relative, or was it just by simply being home? Like you said, you didn't want to go outside. So you're inside and you're at times, I'm sure, bored, and you started flipping through stuff, watching things. And is that really what, or was it somebody who was like, hey, they showed you your first movie, like, you know, and you're like, oh, what is this? And
no, honestly, as my mom, who was a single mom at the time, she had 2 boys, and imagine how difficult it is to have 2 boys. And she just said, you just do what you got to do. I'm tired. As we all know, being parents, we're tired all the time. So just to have that, you're like, oh man, so tired. So 2 boys are basically like, and there was a formative time when we watched a lot of professional wrestling, so just wrestling. And she's like, can you watch something that doesn't involve the WWE? So at that point, it's WWF. So I'll have an extensive history in professional wrestling. I can go back there, way back to the old cartoon and that too. So yeah, it was a lot of
wrestling, buddy.
Yeah, just a lot of self-discovery in terms of just to watch, and it was nice because I guess my brother and me kind of fell into the similar type of taste in the beginning, and now we've kind of deviated. Where when I talk to him about like general stuff, he's just like, I have no interest in it, and I'm watching this weird French movie. I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, I think I've just in my life, even now, generally geared more towards the medium, the middle ground, in terms of my music tastes and just TV shows. And I'm still trying to watch some Prestige, but yeah, it's funny because like I watched the most Star Trek because it was just the most available to me. Right. And then because it was TNG, when we had that big thing, was Friday nights, and I'd watch an X-Files, and then there was, you know, Voyager, TS9. There was always 2 shows at the same time, so you could almost kind of like, you just had unlimited, and there was no Star Trek shows, there was nothing else to watch, so you just kind of had that in the background while you were, you know, playing games, or for me it was like RPGs and whatnot. And I think my mom always did the cost analysis, like, I want to buy you books, but comics are expensive, so I could buy you this one crappy game and you could play it for like 3 months. This comic, you're gonna read it in like 3 minutes, and then you're gonna want another one. So she just geared towards buying and your brother you and your brother need to do something. So she bought 1 game for both of us, and then we just kind of played on for. John, remember that time when you got 1 game and you're like, man, this is good. We're set for like,
we are eating good. We're eating great. We have Mega Man.
Beat RoboCop 2 on NES, no matter what we do.
I remember playing, and I remember playing Batman, that game, and that song. That soundtrack, the Desolation in the Streets, like it's ingrained in my mind because we played it for like probably like 7 hours straight because we had nothing else to play, and it was like that Batman game is incredible. And I've never beat it, and only about 6 months ago I watched someone play the game, and like as a playthrough, and I'm like, oh, that's what level 3 looks like. I never made it there.
I just remember level 1.
I was like, level 1, and then level 2 the sewers, and I never made it past the sewers. I'm like, oh, there's a thing where you go up to the top. oh, that makes sense. Like just like the movie. I'm like, I just got the Streets of Dissolution, the song, and then there was like the oil, like the sewers. I never made it past the sewers. I'm like, oh, there's more to this game. So yeah, no, it's yeah, it was a different time in terms of that. And then yeah, even getting VHSs of like shows and stuff were so difficult because I made that joke and Pat made that joke too about like you had to know a guy that had like a laser disc that put it on VHS. So I remember watching stuff on like you go to a store and you borrow like 4 VHS tapes and you'd watch them and then return them and grab the next 4 VHS tapes. John knows, and then you watch them, return them. Extra. Yeah, like there was stores devoted like shows that you could basically do it, and now like you do everything. But
let me ask you, so yeah. Like so for me, I know like I remember like my parents renting VHS machines and watching like Clash of the Titans and Supergirl and all that stuff. So like movies for me, like I would say, like we had Andre on last month, and obviously comics were always his first love, right? Like that was his gateway into all of this. And for me, I would think it was probably movies and then comics. Like I remember going to the barber as a kid and seeing the old, Ditko Spider-Man and stuff like that. But I mean, John and I worked in video stores growing up and stuff like that. So like we have that similar path. But I watched so many, and I was like, again, a single mom raising 2 boys as well. And was movies and television was kind of like your babysitter.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 1996, Jim Carrey's The Cable Guy came out and directed by Matthew Broderick and Broderick, right? And people hated that movie, but it spoke to me, and I felt like I could completely resonate with that character and understood. And I get the sense that maybe for you probably saw that movie and were like, holy shit, that's like that in a parallel universe is me as well, right? Like, do you think that that's
there? I'm not gonna lie, there had been moments in the halls of my high school where we would yell "Cable Guy" as we walked through the gym change room. So yeah, there are moments definitely that prop up, and it's funny because our parents did the best they could, and I had 2 grandparents that lived with me, but both of them English wasn't their first language, so my grandma would Spanish, kind of watch stuff with me. Yeah. Hola, español. So like she would do that. But my grandfather kind of instilled me the love of like watching soccer and like watching some basketball. It's like he was the sports guy that was watching stuff, and that's kind of where my sports allegiance kind of fall through. And then my grandma just like sit there, just kind of doing just to be around. So yeah, a lot of stuff kind of was it had to be, sometimes science fiction was kind of the most easy genre because what are they doing? They're basically fighting against some sort of evil space empire. So she was like, she kind of knew what was going on. It's like those bad guys look bad because those helmets look bad. I'm like, that's exactly the plot. Carry on.
There we go.
There was some of a simplicity to it, which is kind of funny because you sent that trailer out for that movie, the new Zack Snyder film, and I'm like, yep, same concept. Rebel Moon, people coming together to fight the Imperium. Again, the most generic name for a bad guy. It was the exact same thing as that Sylvester Stallone movie that we all made fun of completely. We're like, what is this guy, a hero to Hero City? I'm like, who wrote this?
Do you know that it's getting
that was written by AI?
Yeah, it's getting a sequel. It's so sad. I can't believe it. Yeah. So then how do you get into like, I mean, we could, I could talk to you all day long about, your history and growing up, the type of, things that you love about movies, specifically this and that. But how do you then segue into comics and like specifically with John and Andre, like, how did that? Where's that bridge? Because you didn't go to school with either of them, right? Or
I went to the same high school as Andre, but he was a few years ahead of me. So he was
many years, is what you said. Many years.
I don't know how many years, but Andre was the legends of Andre as the president of MEDHS, the Markovich High School that we went to. So it was funny because I was mostly getting my comics secondhand from buddies or from the Markham Library and kind of checking things out. And I met John and Andre at All Star, our Cards and Comics, the OG spot back in the day when Don wasn't there, and I didn't like it when Don was there. But when John and Andre were there, I was like, this is great. So I met them there, and then by happenstance, like a few years later, like one of the people I knew, Chad, was really good friends with like Hugo, and Hugo knew John. So this weird kind of thing where I'm like, oh, then John and friends, and there was a very close knitted Jamaican Chinese community, so I kind of just knew everyone from there too. So it used to be surprised they all know each other and they all kind of do the thing. So yeah, it was kind of one of those things where kind of became friends and kind of knew each other. And then when they went off to their first location, of course I went with them, and I didn't go to the old place. And yeah, that's been third location. So been along the way. I think me kind of just hanging out with John and Andre, chatting and stuff, it was always in between classes or stuff I had going on, was super enjoyable. And like it kind of like playing with my brother and stuff. Like I'm definitely not a super competitive person. Like when I play game stuff, I like co-op games, I like team games, I like that type of stuff. So then it progressed to me reading comics and playing board games a lot. So then it led to me like being like at the store and we're just chatting, and someone's like, John, what do you think of this game? And then I just chime in like, John, let me handle this. This game's actually not good. This game over there. So it became kind of like a fun thing where just like just sharing some knowledge about like, I played this game. If you like this game, you like that one. And yeah, it's kind of just happened, and becoming friends with a lot of John and Andre's past employees too. They've been like man, like 7. Like I felt like I've met all of John and everyone that's worked under John and Andre. Like I've chatted with and met and had conversations with, and we all got along. So like the list is long, and I don't want to name all of them, but there's been so many people that's kind of come through that like turnstile, and it was super cool to kind of.
Okay, I gotta ask. Here's a real question, right? You could just tell me. It doesn't matter anymore. You're friends with them. They're just finishing high school or whatever. A couple years later, and they're like, yeah, I think we're gonna open up a comic book store. Like we're gonna go into business for ourselves. Were you thinking that's amazing, or were you thinking these guys are nuts? These guys are absolutely crazy.
No, it was the right decision, 100%. Because the reason why people went there is because of John and Andre, the relationships they fostered, and Don. Oh goodness gracious! It was a nice man to a certain extent, but I don't think he recognized the loyalty that this community had for those two. And Don had like 2 or 3 locations. He had one in Newmarket. Like he kind of was like franchise, like he was all over the place. And he was like, yeah, kind of I think overestimated the branding of the store as opposed to the people that do the work in order and kind of do the regular day-to-day grind. Yeah. So no, I thought it was just crazy that Andre was selling his stuff. I'm like, oh my god, like I just like going to Andre's basement and seeing his stuff. I'm like, there's like pre and after. I'm like, now I'm kind of like, it's crazy. Now as I've gotten older and I'm like, oh my god, it's the best thing. Like getting rid of stuff is the greatest thing that anyone can do. I'm like, now I'm like looking around my room. I'm like, how do I get rid of all this crap?
You always want it back.
Yeah, it's like so good to like
want it back.
Because it's like, oh, like, and I helped my mom move together like a few months ago, and I was like, all the crap that you accumulate in your life, I'm like, do we ever need all this? I'm like, actually, it's great getting rid of some stuff. So helping someone, especially the catalog of stuff that John and Andre had from their personal collections, and allowing people to have those cherished memories and like making up for lost time is kind of a super cool thing. Because like, again, I think that's what we all do when we go to the Fan Expo, is like, now it's a little different. I think when John and it's helped, I guess, John and Andre, like I've gone to the Fan Expo many years to kind of help them with this, not moving. I couldn't do that because I was always busy, but like on a Saturday, that was my go-to day. I'd go down and like when John was at the store, help Andre and like do stuff down there so he could have a break and eat and do other things, because it's a grind at the Fan Expo. But there was a time when you could go buy like singles and like catch up on like, here's a stack of books. Like I remember picking up the Thanos's Quest, like the OG ones, and like picking up like stuff like that. Like that's the fun stuff that you could do. And now it's like mystery boxes and like everything you buy from Temu and stuff. And I'm like, what? The joy is no longer there. You could say the same thing about Anime North. There was a time, John can talk about too, like you go to Anime North and pick up the coolest stuff from Japan, like people brought over. And now it's just basically like body pillows and like unmentionable mouse pads, Rob, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I have 5 of them.
So,
He
Stu,
lined his seat with them.
you're on a desert island, okay?
yeah.
You can only bring 1 movie, 1 video game, and 1 album. What are you bringing?
Oh snap! Do we need to give him? Do you need a minute, Stu?
Michael Jackson, Thriller. That album is just crushes.
Okay.
Not dangerous.
Thriller is the best one. Thriller,
Yeah.
still Thriller. Michael Jackson,
yeah,
Thriller.
I'll give it to you.
Because even at night, and I'm losing my mind, I could just play Thriller, and it's great. 1 game, man, oh man, I think it would have to be FIFA.
You can simulate whole seasons.
Yeah, because I could just simulate and play game. Like, because the problem with I was thinking about oh, I bring Final Fantasy 7, and I'm like, oh, it's a desert island. Like, how many times I've already played it 1,000 times already. But like, I could simulate every position. I could play forward. I could play goalie. I could in World Soccer, I could play for 1,000 different teams. I just think of the versatility of what I could do in FIFA. And now it's called I think football, whatever it is. It used to be FIFA, but yeah, that's the game because it just gives so much versatility. Like I think any other game would be it could be NBA, it could be hockey. Any of those ones are
you can simulate the seasons. It just has to watch.
I could lazy and just simulate and watch. I could make myself. I could play as all these positions. I could do it. I could be that, or I'd be like, I miss John. You know, I'm gonna make John the goalie of my team, and Rob's gonna be the striker. And there we are. We're gonna play on a team together, so that'd be fun. And then the movie, is it movie you said?
Yeah.
Godfather.
Did you say the Godfather, John? Is that what you said?
I would say Godfather. Didn't you?
No. Castaway.
Oh, Castaway.
Wait, you're on an island.
Yeah.
And you need escapism. And
No.
You can live it.
How to, baby. How to.
It's like
you gotta learn. It's a how-to. It's a how-to. I'm like, all right, yeah.
Man, I have to get rid of my tooth. Where am I gonna find a figure skate? This is not. I don't know what else to do.
Lessons is just open all the boxes. Don't hold that box because there's a phone in it. You guys just open it up. You know,
satellite phone.
Satellite phone. There are lessons to be learned in Castaway, and you know that's you gotta do it.
I gotta say, I'm a bit surprised that was the movie you chose. I actually thought you would have gone with the more obvious answer, which would have been like any porn movie, but that's fine. Okay.
No, the plot is not diverse enough.
Doesn't matter. We only need like 15 seconds of it over a 3-hour movie. You're there for life.
I think Castaway, and I think I'd enjoy the moments of solitude and silence. I'm like, yeah, Tom Hanks can do it. This guy can do it.
I enjoy moments of solitude and science, and all of a sudden I'm going to hear Vincent Price ring in Thriller.
Honestly, it's a great album, man. Great album. So,
all right, John, you got any questions for Stu?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered it pretty good. I don't know. You asked him the desert questions. I don't know if we have any other questions that would stump him. Can we stump him with something?
It's like Stump the Schwab. Is that?
Yeah.
John has no idea what that is. I know exactly what it is.
What was that?
Here's the thing. The one thing about me, John, and I think that's why I think you asked me to do the podcast years ago, is that I'm, as you know, very much a jack of all trades. I know a little bit of enough to get me by. Just like it helps me in my job, but not deep enough that I'm going to go like 3 layers down in terms of knowledge. But trust me, you talk about anything, I'm like, I kind of know a little bit about something, and I can have a bare minimum conversation.
Yeah, no, if we could dig into those archives of the old Heroes World podcast that Stu basically spearheaded. Stu used to have to buy like mics. We used to do this not virtually. There used to not be these tools. There was no Zoom back then. There was no StreamYard, which we're using right now. If you want to use StreamYard, let me know. You can get a coupon for it. But he used to have to get all the cables and stuff, and we'd plug these cables in. Some of them wouldn't work. I don't know why. You're like twisting them around and stuff. Just some mics would just.
Oh, because they're cheap, John. Cheap cables. That was the answer. Once I was like, oh, why are these cables? I'm like, it came with the system, and I'm like, oh, these are cheap cables. Once I bought better cables, guess what? They start working. The
Every
answer
once in a
was,
while, I'll share a
get what you
pic
pay
of the
for.
old times
Yeah.
when you got to
Yeah.
Stu had to come in physically with all his gear and all this stuff. We had set all these up, had these mic stands. We were using store fixtures as mic stands, all these like ridiculous stuff. But
I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of miss that, but I think the inconvenience was we had to wait till the store closed. So we had to wait to
close the
close.
store. Some people would like forget to show up and disappear and stuff like that. It was kind of crazy.
It was definitely.
That was some. I think that
Yeah.
was some good content, and if we actually like kept better track of it, it's probably my fault. I probably lost those files. But that was before podcasting was a thing. Like it was before this explosion. So it was pretty cool for us to like Stu came up with a lot of this stuff. He'd ask us all these bonkers questions and things like that. So I think when the regular Heroes World podcast returns, I think we had to go back to Stu's formula of putting us on the spot to come up with like these really creative ideas and things.
Well, even when you guys started doing it on Zoom during the pandemic, that was a lot of fun. Like we've been doing it for so long, it comes up in my Facebook memories now, and that shit makes me laugh, man.
I like how you guys are talking about like in a past tense. Did something happen? Am I the last to get the memo? I'm like, are we done? Wait, what?
No, we transitioned to just doing straight up reviews.
We're just waiting for content and the strike to be over. You know, I don't want to be a scab. So now that we're done, we're done. So we can go back.
Listen, Andre started off as a president of some book club at his high school. Next thing you know, he's a damn king of the GTA comic book, owners. Like,
we're gonna have to book him, Stu. He's not gonna. We're gonna have to book him ahead of time.
I think he's all right. I think we'll be okay. I think you know what helps that Andre doesn't have to go anywhere. But I remember the one of the fun memories was when we went to see Batman v Superman. And we went to Andre's house afterwards to do a podcast. I think we had a video one we did too. It was so hilarious because we went and we drove back, and then just Andre just lost of words. He's like, I don't know what to say. This was supposed to be the greatest of moments, and he just like hands in between his eyes, going just. I remember like the first scene, and I can say it now, where like Ben Affleck, the character like Bruce Wayne, falls in the bats, and he started to float. Like honestly, I was also going out of my seat, and I'm like, I'm gonna leave. And I'm gonna leave with me because we're like, if this Batman can fly, it's over. It's, like, it's a dream, and I'm like, and then I sat back down. I'm like, oh, this is the type of movie we're setting up for. This is gonna be rough, and guess what? It was rough. So.
Yeah. All right, Stu, thanks. We're going to start talking about, before we get to talking about the strike and the news, John, what's new in the store? What do you got coming on this week?
Yeah, so on the website now, I've got a couple special pre-orders up, and there's some movies that, unfortunately, we didn't get to talk about because of the move of the store and the crazy summer it was, so I don't know if we covered these too much, but you might recognize this guy here, our good friend, Keanu Reeves. Hold on, let me get this thing off the screen here. So this is a toy, believe it or not. 2. Yeah, Point Break 2, the Nunchaku edition.
Electric Boogaloo?
Yes, Electric Boogaloo with the swords. So if you guys aren't familiar with Hot Toys, these are 1/12 or 1/6 scale figures, fully detailed, articulated, and I think the suit is really what makes this John Wick figure really stand out. It's just incredible. Like, how do you guys feel about this likeness, Stu? Does that look like Keanu or reasonably close?
Yeah, no, they always have really fantastic. Because the craftsmanship of the people actually molding the faces has always been incredible. I think, to your point, what's going to elevate this is because textures of a suit just are easier to kind of do than some of those uniforms and some of the Star Wars stuff too. So this is just going to drape and look really well in terms of just making it flat without making it look too fake. So man, no, the suit looks impeccable. The more stuff already is always good.
Yeah, the more layers you add to it, sometimes they'll release a character like a Spider-Man or whatever who'll just be in a skin-tight suit. It doesn't quite work as well. So when you start adding all these layers, so we've got John Wick here. This is from John Wick 4 that did release. Was it this past summer, Rob? I think you put it in one of your top summer projects, right?
It was May.
Yeah. So and then we have to have Kane in the
2013 hit John real hard. He's like, what? What month is this? Where
I don't know what day it is now. But
John,
you have to.
All you need to know is Mariah's playing. So you're like, it's got to be Christmas.
It's Mariah season now coming up, folks. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that. But this is our buddy Stu. You know him well, Donnie Yen, a treasure, and now he's really crossed over. Rob, I know when you saw him in Blade 2, and a couple other projects. But I think this John Wick 4
Blink 2 and a couple other projects.
Yeah.
Like
projects he crossed over.
One of those small little franchises.
No, but Ip Man is a Hong Kong film, right? So like,
it's still a franchise because there's tons of them, and he's in all of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
So much so he fought Mike Tyson. Come on, John.
Yeah. The talk of Ip Man is reserved for a whole nother podcast. The first one is very good, folks. That's where I'll leave it. But this is, you can get your Kane versus John Wick. They had to depower Donnie Yen in this movie because he was too strong, make him blind with the sunglasses and everything like that. But this is an incredible piece as well. And just the outfit. We've all heard the stories behind the scenes that Donnie Yen wanted to play a non-traditional Asian character. They wanted to give him like the chensons and all the traditional Chinese garb. And he's like, no, I want to look cool. He's got the turtlenecks and the suits and the sunglasses.
Yeah, I want to look cool. Give me a turtleneck.
Whoa. Tactical turtleneck.
Right. It's bulletproof right there.
Yeah.
Sterling Archer's wardrobe of a tactical turtleneck. Let's
I'll still never forget to go into the theater to see this with my son. And I'm like, he goes, why does that guy look familiar? I go, oh, he was in Star Wars.
That's the blind guy.
And he's like, is that dude really blind? I was like, no, it just happens to be the last two movies you've seen with him. He plays as a blind character.
They have to depower him when he comes to North American movies. Otherwise, he just wins. He wins the day. We also Triple X 3, and saw he was stealing the show from Vin Diesel, and Vin Diesel had to shut that down. No more Triple X movies. But the next hot toy I want to show you, I think we all watched this and we all recommended this movie, the Feral Predator from Prey. So I'm very interested to see if they actually release some of the other characters from the movie, which would be really cool. So if you guys are down with Predator's always really cool. What do you think of this likeness, this weird face, Rob?
What do you think of the likeness? It looks exactly like the monster, John. Yep. The sculpt looks great.
I wish that they would just be able to move the head, and underneath it is Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like that would take extra.
You want Jean-Claude Van Damme variant?
He was the original Predator, and they're like, yeah, we don't want the Predator to be like we gotta change up the body.
He looks like a
language,
man.
Yeah, you weren't the right fit, Jean-Claude. So
maybe one day they'll release that. I don't know if someone is sitting on that footage or something like that, or if Jean-Claude Van Damme's got some free time. I feel like they should do that because DC, heads up, guys, DC is going to be releasing a copy of Rob. You remember the issue where Robin dies?
Yeah,
and they made people vote on it. They're going to release a comic that is the opposite side. So what if Robin had been voted to live, and they've got the original scripts from the original artists and stuff like that, and they're going to recreate it. So what if they did that for that movie? It would be very interesting. But
this is what happens with the Snyder Cut, John. This is what happens. Wherever you give everyone what they want, they're like, we want a Justice League Snyder Cut, and then all of us are sad except for Rob.
Except for Rob, who's like, oh my god, this is the most amazing movie on the planet.
All of us but Rob are sad. We're like, the Snyder Cut.
Waiting for this my whole life. Anyways, folks, these are on our website right now, Heroes World Online or heroesworld.ca. We are doing a special pre-order price on those 3 figures, in particular, until the end of November. So if you are interested in those hot toys, let me know, or go to the website. You can order it. They're not out for a while. I think they're not out till like March 2025 or something like that. But that's the way hot toys go. But you can get them on the cheap right now, and you can pick in-store pickup, or we can have them delivered right to you. Cool. So that's just what I wanted to show off, Rob. So
awesome, buddy.
Take it away.
All right, so I guess listen, everybody, thanks still for tuning in. And if you're just joining us a little bit late, you're not watching an old stream. You're seeing Stew Pei. Yeah, here joining us, our special guest this week in the Sidekick Show. And we are going to get into like the biggest news of potentially the past few months. Was on Wednesday it was announced that SAG-AFTRA have come into an agreement with the motion picture producers, AMTP, I believe it's called. And essentially the strike is over. Now, we don't know the specifics of the deals yet because it did have to get ratified. I think they're sending it out to voting members for this weekend, and I think it gets ratified. I believe it's
there are some points out.
There are some, but not a lot. Yes, some have been issued up, but not.
Yeah, the big points, and I think you'll go into them about increases, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, they did talk about increase. They talked about some more revenue with respect to the streaming, with streaming movies, so that creators, the actors are going to get a bit more of the, from the streaming services. The biggest sticking point for them was the use of AI and the AI provisions. And that was one it looks like the producers have kind of pretty much backed down on quite considerably. So we'll get a bit more of the specifics of what the deal entails within the next week or so. But what we wanted to do was kind of talk about. I sent a message out to the guys on Wednesday when the news broke that the strike was over. And I was like, okay, what's the first project that's going to have like an update, a casting announcement? What will be the first project that has a casting announcement? And literally 24 hours later, Ryan Reynolds tweets out the very first casting announcement since the strike was completed. And this was the casting of the world's ugliest dog as Dogpool.
Well, hold on, don't be so cruel.
No, I actually think that dog won the world's ugliest dog contest last year. At any rate,
I didn't know it was a contest, but okay.
Yeah. Every year they have the world's ugliest dog.
You train for that, or does it just
people?
You just have to win naturally?
I've been submitting you, and they keep saying it has to be an animal. And so,
you son of a bitch.
As you can, for those who are just listening online after the fact, Ryan Reynolds tweeted out a picture of a really ugly dog in a Deadpool costume. It says, "Dig Dogpool save the day. Not a chance in Gremlin hell." But she is currently causing Disney plushie merch department nightmares. Coming with the movie summer 2024. I think we actually got a proper date this week. I believe it's July 25th or 26th of 2024. So that was, I guess you could say, the first announcement. And then we had a cascading effect of things that were happening. So then Marvel decided to update their release slate. And it turns out that Deadpool 3 is going to be the only movie coming out next year. John, you have the graphic for that.
There it is.
So yeah, Deadpool is the only one that comes out next year of July 26, 2024. Captain America 4 is now pushed over to February, Valentine's Day. Nothing says love, ladies and gents. I think going to see Captain America 4 on Valentine's Day. The Thunderbolts will arrive that year in July. And then to round out the year of 2025, supposedly Blade will.
Good luck.
I'm calling bullshit.
Shenanigans.
That will not hit the November 7th, 2024.
I think it will. I'm confident.
You think they're gonna crank it out?
Yeah. I'm confident. Yeah.
And then James Gunn also took to Instagram. I guess there was some question about whether or not DC, on the flip side, DC's big kickoff to the new DCU in motion picture form will be Superman Legacy. And there was some question about whether or not that would be delayed. And he said, no. Despite the fact that the strike was going on with the actors and whatnot, we weren't planning on filming until March anyways. In the entire time that the script had been done for months, so that wasn't really affected by the writer's strike. And they've been in pre-production this entire time. So I imagine at this point now, within the next probably about now, they're probably building some of the sets over in London, England. So they start filming in March of 2024 for a July 11th, 2025 release, which will only be a couple of weeks before Thunderbolts comes out. So those are like the biggest, the things that kind of jumped out that's in our purview of like the geek world. But what do you guys think? First of all, are you happy that the strike is over? And then what are the big announcements? I mean, like, okay, Dogpool aside, we're going to be getting some big casting announcements.
That's not a big announcement. That's Ryan Reynolds clowning.
So what do you think is going to be the big announcement? The first one that's really going to send shockwaves. Stu, what do you think?
I think the actor, and I'm glad that the actors got what they're looking for. I know peripherally it was a marginal increase, mainly for the middle actors in terms of a percentage increase. I think it's like 4% for every for a year or two, and it increases up. I know that there's a couple provisions about wigging, and wigging is a thing that happens a lot in the industry where two actors will be there, and then there's a female and stunt actor. You just throw a wig on to a male actor, and they're like, "There we go, you're good." So I think that there's a lot of equity in that space. So I know that they're going to get something, and then there's a little more bump in terms of salary to the actors in regards to streaming. My concern is that this is going to take away overall from some of the opportunities, the weird opportunities that may transpire, because I think that we've been spoiled in the last few years with streaming, where it was the Wild West and you could get away with making anything and everything, and everyone had an opportunity to make something, try something. Some of the coolest things that we saw probably would never have gotten made. Our Flag Means Death is an incredible TV show. Right. And I think if they were like, if Taika Waititi was pitching that now, I don't think they'd get made. But like 2 years ago, they're like, we just need content for HBO or whatever. Like, we'll take it. Yeah. So I think it is a different situation in terms of opportunity that's going to take away from some of the actors, because the prices go up and they're like, we're just going to, we're just going to make less and make sure that the movies that come out are take less kind of creative risks and are kind of bland and kind of just checkmark boxes. Very safe. And the reason why I truly believe that Blade is fine is because as long as they don't do massive, like, Blade are vampires. Like, darkness is cheap. We talked about it all the time before. Blade, and like why Predator works so well, is that when you do dark CGI, oh my God, it's so much cheaper because you can be forgiven for a lot of mistakes. The sun and the light and like using like a VR rig to show light on things, that's where you have the imperfections. But you do darkness and vampires and just red eyes, like that cuts down so much of your cost. And like we talk about horror movies, like your imagination will come up with conjure something more scary than anything you put on screen. So if they do it kind of like a classic horror movie and have Blade there and maybe just film and like as they all do right now in Croatia, then they're going to be fine. It's just the scale, like just don't have 1 million vampires. It doesn't have to be World War Z. But if you have a couple really cool scenes where it's a couple vampires in a castle, like Underworld kind of did it, and you can just do it the same type of scale, and it really makes a lot of sense that that's the movie that they already talk about budgets, like 100, 150. I'm like, yeah, that should be fine. It's just in terms of Mahershala Ali, in terms of he's going to be still like spry enough to do it. But again, we don't know what kind of, is he like a medieval style vampire hunter? Like, is it like a judo Darth Vader? Like he just spins the sword around? Does he have to flip and do fights? Like that was Wesley Snipes, and we also have to be aware that that's not always the case.
I know, but the problem is though, is that was so iconic. I think you're gonna be hard pressed to you almost have to top it. And
there's also campy too, so like you don't have to top it. It's been so far down the line that you just do what you want to do. So
all right, so what's the big announcement? What's your call about the big announcement of casting? Like what movie do you think they're gonna announce first?
I think the other John. Sorry, go ahead before, because I have a thought about it.
Your boy Doom, maybe Fantastic Four, Marvel. I think they should. I think it's going to be Fantastic Four, but I think it should be X-Men. I think they should have learned their lesson now and know that if they want to start this new universe, they got to get it rolling like yesterday.
Everything that I'm reading and everything that I know from people that I know is that, Deadpool 3 is where they're putting all their energy and chutzpah behind. Like they're just basically like, this is our Endgame Avengers style movie that's not an Avengers movie. Let's make sure this is done right, because it's our only chance to really pivot this phase, because no one cares about anything that we've done so far. And if they can land that Deadpool film, and there's like a zillion cast rumors, like every single time you're like, oh, the original X-Men, oh, you know that they're gonna have another Wolverine and it's gonna be freaking Harry Potter, like everybody, because of the wildness and popularity of Ryan Reynolds, like there is no cameo. They're like, oh, Taylor Swift can be Dazzler. Anything you can imagine, and they know each other, is possible, which is why that movie is just going to be gangbusters, because it's just like Ryan Reynolds he has the juice. He could get anyone to do anything right now because it's Ryan Reynolds. So I think they're just like, let's format and see what we do there, because the elephant in the room, we talked about several times, we have no idea what Jonathan Majors is going to happen, and they need time to pivot, because if it's not Kang and maybe they go Doctor Doom, then Doctor Doom is the casting. There's so many variables that they don't know about. Or that they basically shift and get another actor to take place of, just like the Crimes of Dumbledore, and get rid of Johnny Depp and then bring in Mads Nicholson. Oh, Mads Nicholson! Can we bring Mads Nicholson as the new Kang the Conqueror and just bring him in and do it that route? Like, let's just figure it out.
No,
like,
he'd be a great Reed Richards.
Actually,
a Doom. Dr. Doom. He'd be a great Dr. Doom.
Yeah, like at this point, I think there's those balls need to be figured out in order to what to do next. And man, it's that without knowing Kang, you don't know what to do, because he's built up to be. He's been punked several times, but he built up to be the bad guy. And it makes sense that Deadpool, from all the stuff jumping around the TVA, and he's going around from universe to universe, and to save the Marvel universe, it would make sense that this is the build up to Secret Wars or build up to the Kang dynasty. Like, it's all coming down the line. So, this they really need to nail Deadpool, and then they can pivot and moving across everything else, which again needs massive reshoots. Like, let's not even talk about, on a quick tangent, how bad the Borderlands is right now. It's so bad that the reshoots are being done and Eli Roth isn't doing them. Yeah. So you have another bad situation where it's so bad that at least the Marvel stuff, like, whatever, like, you have to bring a new director to fix reshoots. Like, that's uncanny how bad that is. To the giant tentpole, like, multi-million-dollar film like Borderlands is built of a big franchise IP with lots of people behind it. So yeah, like, it should make sense that that's the thing. But I also think the actor that wants to be Dr. Doom, like, if Marvel can say, well, actually, you're going to be the new villain and it's not going to be Kang, you could probably get someone really, really big if it's a juicier part, as opposed to, you'll be in a Fantastic Four movie. Like, it's just what you're, and also you need to know how much you're signing up for. Because if it is, you're doing this, you're like, oh man, like, one Fantastic Four movie or like two, whatever, is like one contract to contract. Because even when Kevin Feige's like, oh, we're not doing multi-year, it's like, you just choose what you want. I'm like, I think they're like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do you want to do more? Even though you're not honor bound to do multiple. But, like, if you bail on us, Disney will never forget. So, like, it's in your best prerogative to, like, sign up for 4 movies. So there's just kind of a weird thing where there's just scratch your back. Like, oh, if you want to get a movie produced or a film, like, Disney could do something. We have all these properties. Just sign up for a Marvel film. So there's always the ways that they can give people money and opportunity without giving them money, if you know what I'm saying.
So Stu didn't answer the question. John, what's the first movie that's going to be announced casting-wise? What would be the first big casting movie?
I think the only one next in line, you're right, is the Fantastic Four. Like, I would like to see X-Men. I don't think they're going to do it. They haven't laid any groundwork. They already dropped all their Superman castings during the strike, so we'll see if anyone bails on those. And the only thing people were talking about during the strike was these possible Fan Four castings. So I think that's probably going to be.
It's a rumor. The rumors were basically like they're ready to go, but then the strike happened. So
but then I saw stuff this week that apparently the people who were going to sign on are now backing out of it. So who knows, man? I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe they're throwing that out there just because, and they knew that those people weren't going to stay, but they were like, we need to get in the news cycle, even though everything's shut down. So,
well, I think there's going to be another DC movie casting will be announced within the next 6 months.
Yeah, I do. Suicide Squad?
No. I think Batman Brave. I think Batman Brave and the Bold will have an announcement between. Well, maybe not. Maybe between now and San Diego Comic-Con. Because that's like the next big movie that DC has on its slate, right after Superman Legacy.
They still have to do Aquaman too. They schedule Aquaman.
Aquaman 2 is that they're just
wrap up.
Yeah,
and
no,
wrap
they
up
just
this era of
a
DC.
pile of poop that's put in front of a doorstep. They're waiting till December 29th to light it and get the hell out of there. And they're just gonna let it go.
They gotta drop Aquaman. And they gotta wait for the bomb of that and the aftermath of that to fade away. And then Superman ride on.
Yeah, I think we know it has to be Fantastic Four. It's just a matter of negotiating who's going to do what. And I think they're just trying to figure out. I don't know until they figure out the whole Kang thing. So, That's
Okay,
it.
so then I want to talk then about, because Stu kind of said, and I'm going to jump to John's answer on this one first, but Stu was talking about that they have to get Deadpool 3 right and everything else. Deadpool 3 is probably the most publicized movie that hasn't been released yet.
Most anticipated film since Endgame.
Right. So, but here's my question then, is that if Disney and Marvel are hanging all of their, their wish baskets onto the backs of Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy and
Hugh Jackman, that guy, yeah.
Deadpool 3, do you think that they will then reconsider their strategy of the movies that they have in the pipe going forward, like the Thunderbolts? Like, will they be like, you know what? We need to get back to our basics, like seeing Deadpool 3 and seeing everything. We have to literally pivot away from the direction that we were going on, because obviously it wasn't working. And what we're looking at is not going to be working for us in the future. Like, you're going to get all that goodwill back, and then you're going to squander it if they're kind of continuing the same line. So, John, do you think then that they will start cutting ties with some of the movies that they have kind of announced? Maybe even say, you know what, even the Kang Dynasty with the Jonathan Majors, we're not going to do it. We're looking at other things. We're going to go forward. We have a clear line. Here's a couple of new projects that are going to be in the works. Do you think they're going to go that way, or do you think they're going to stay the course, make try to fix what's going on with Captain America 4?
I think so many under delivering movies over the summer, like it's the summer of flops, you would call it, or whatever. I think those numbers have to speak, and money's probably gonna be tight because of this strike. So maybe if the strike didn't happen, they probably would have continued along the whatever path they had set out. But now that they've been given a moment to pause and try and figure this out and go, hey, we can't phone this in. We can't film all these things and hope some poor dude in the editing room can stitch all this together and have it make sense. I think they're getting slapped in the face with the Secret Invasion. We all funned on it earlier. Loki, like, even you guys were claiming that Loki is good, but everyone is still going to kind of like chuckle when you start asking, hey, what did you think of Loki season 2 or whatever, So I feel like those numbers have to speak. And I feel like they really do have to get back to building it up. Like, we've always compared Endgame to the Super Bowl, and what they do immediately after Endgame, they tried to launch another Super Bowl. Like, they didn't have a season. Like, if we're going to get into sports stuff, which I know nothing about, they didn't have, the preseason startup of all these origin movies and stuff like that. The closest we got is one of the movies that we probably have liked the most and comes up most often is Shang-Chi. And then the other movies, they didn't try to lay this origin like groundwork. So yeah, I think they have to learn their lesson from that. But I feel like the whole Ryan Reynolds thing, they're just gonna take that as gravy. I don't think they're gonna build a whole new universe off of whatever he achieves with that movie.
I think Feige has had multiple servings of humble pie in the last 2 years, in just terms of like, we can make anyone into a star. No, you cannot. Right. I love Simu, but Simu is not a big star. Robert Downey is a star. Chris Evans, star, but not really a star, because no one's gone to see Chris Evans film outside Captain. Like, no one's like, I got to see Chris Evans film. Chris Evans is popular because Captain America. Chris Hemsworth is Thor, but like, how many movies, like Men in Black, no one saw it. Like, he's done other movies and he's doing Netflix. Like, I think there's a conception we talked before about big stars. Robert Downey Jr. was a big star and is a big star in that context, and people would see him in The Judge and some other things too. You just have to look at like, oh, we can build these into big movie stars. And Scarlett Johansson's a star in her own right. They just kept on picking people. They're like, oh, we're going to the low trajectory and build up with the potential. But like, some of the actors they picked didn't work out. Like Anthony Mackie, love the guy, but he's not a Hollywood star that he can drive people to the movie theater. Like, you look constantly, like, if Tom Cruise could not drive people to Mission Impossible, that's freaking Tom Cruise after like
that's
Top
insane.
Gun Maverick.
That is insane.
You just have to look at like what everyone thought, that, oh, people just could go for Marvel films. Yeah and no, but it's kind of a mixture of things. You need a big star. You need, you need to be funny. You need a little, the formula needs to be there. And I think they deviated so much from it that they just picked people that could just, we'll turn them into something. We have all those articles about the Midas touch. It didn't turn into that because the actors they've chose for all these phases, no one is anyone that can lead or drive a big blockbuster movie. It just doesn't happen.
Well, okay, but then I would though counter with I would say that I think that Shang-Chi as the property, as an IP, I think did well, given what it was when it came out and we were still kind of getting out of that pandemic type stuff. I think it did really well. What I think though is, to your point, Simu Liu has to probably have a conversation with his representation and find out why the hell you've got him doing Cheetos cheesy commercials, Google Pixel commercials, and then you're having a quasi, third or fourth on the list for the Barbie movie. That's really it. Like, he hasn't been and done anything else to elevate any of that status that he did receive off the back of Shang-Chi. Like that,
I think it's hard because until it comes out, you don't know what you don't know. It's like it's same thing about like the reconnaissance only happened after like he was in a movie, but like True Detective came out, and you're like, oh my gosh, you forgot about Matthew McConaughey? Yeah, and it's all about kind of hitting.
All right.
And even right now, there's that movie that came out with that swimming movie. I already forgot already. She was in Science. You know who I'm talking about? Silence of the Lamb or whatever. And she's going to be in Fargo the next season.
No, you're talking about, no, she's in True Detective.
Oh, True Detective. Yeah, she's going to be True Detective. Jodie Foster. And like that movie's not good, but people forgot about Jodie Foster. And I know already she's going to be awesome in True Detective. Yeah. So it's one of those things where like everything kind of has to synergize at the right place. And I look at these kind of films and I look at like even the way that people release films, like people just think as easy as, oh, you Barbenheimer, like we just do it that time. Like they just didn't think about spacing of movie theaters. Like they put it all tightly together. And what killed everyone was Super Mario Brothers took that empty space and had all the IMAX theaters for like a month by itself. This Marvel's movie comes out, and then next week already, you can't see it in like IMAX anymore. It's gone. Now it's going to go to this Hunger Games film that who wanted a Hunger Games prequel? So all of a sudden it's like this timing of like, oh, superficial because of like shareholders and like monetary reserves. Like there was a time when you picked a movie based on like, this is the best place for it for awards contention and things, not about, kind of filling in. We have to change a lot of the dynamic of scheduling because just you can put it on whatever weekend that makes sense that no one else is watching movies. Put it that week. Mm-hmm. Don't put it all in that same time, because also Tom Cruise was also really pissed off because Mission Impossible got like 1 or 2 weeks, and all of a sudden Oppenheimer took all the theaters, and he's like, what the heck happened? It's like, yeah,
but that was based on the contract that Nolan had with IMAX to be able to shoot it all.
So then Top Gun should have moved his movie. Like it's like this is the stuff that like guys are not thinking about, and like, and again, like we have to look at it.
It's insane to think he couldn't ride the coattails of Maverick into a.
It's all about timing.
Listen, we talked about this. The movie, it wasn't a proper Mission Impossible movie. It felt like you were watching the Spectre version of like a James Bond movie. It was slow, and also their biggest stunt piece. They had 2 years. They kept showing you for 2 years all the behind the scenes, how they made the sausage, and nobody cared anymore because that was you were like, I've spent all this time going to the theaters. I've watched the YouTube video 8 million times. What do I need to go see this movie now? I've seen everything about it, and the reviews were not.
That's the footage that comes out after the movie's open.
There's only one true thing that makes sense: as you put a horror movie around Halloween. Like that's the way to do it. Like 2 weeks beforehand, like plan. But the thing is, like those movies have to be very specific. If you do too late. Once Halloween is over, no one watches a Halloween movie anymore in the theater. It's like a horror movie. Like it's like everything. All of a sudden, Mariah turns on. Once Halloween's over, Mariah Carey music comes on, and it's like that's it. Horror movies are done. So like there's always
until January.
So then it's like it's a very small window of success, and people have to just look at like we have to redefine because Universal's now done day in day out. So you could have watched Five Nights at Freddy at home. You didn't even have to go to the movie theater. It was on digital release day in, day out. So as people are accustomed, like Rob and I talked too about, like our parents don't go to movie theaters anymore because they'll have to. So we have to change so much of it. When was the last time someone went to the movie theater? Like I think My mom did go to Oppenheimer, but that was it. Like, I don't think she really
My
went to
mom
anything
just went and
else.
saw Killers of the Flower Moon last weekend, and she said she was wrapped up. And all I could think of is she looked like Ralphie's brother from Christmas Story. She was all like and walked into the theater like this to sit down to watch a movie because she was too afraid of.
I think we're just spoiled in the fact that like 40 days out, if the movie bombs, it'll be on digital. Like,
you're being gracious of 40 days. Sometimes it's like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it just like even Killers of the Flower Moon is going to be on Apple. Like, that movie lost a ton of money, but Apple's like, it's going to win an Oscar, and then we're going to look Apple. We did that. So like, we were doing it for their own reasons, just like Netflix spent vanity money to make like a Oscar-winning product. Like, this is what's going to happen is people aren't careful. It's the Marvel stuff needs to be more polished. It needs to be, unfortunately for us, more generic and more to the target market. The small stuff, the unique stuff, the weird stuff is going to be gone. And that's it. Like, we had that chance. It's like Keep It Weird Portland. Like, we lived in Portland, and then now we're like back to normal. Like, we have to just do normal things because the public didn't want to see these films. And I think that someone mentioned before about the balance of the Marvels. There wasn't a real male perspective in this film. So it was really difficult. Like, at least usually there is like a male something, and this is three female, but like, we wouldn't also stand now for movies that are just all men's perspective with no female perspective. So there needs to be some sort of balance along the way. Going the extreme the other direction is not a good idea either, because it alienates a group of people that would see it. It's like, well, this doesn't speak to me at all. Like, so it's hard traditionally in a market where most of those films are seen predominantly by men to have no kind of male plot to go along the way. It just crushes your movie.
So, John, we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes here, but here's a question I have for you. So, 2024 and 2025 potentially. First of all, 2024 is going to be a bit of a dearth of there's not going to be that much. It's going to be a bit of a desert wasteland of
a lull in the fighting.
Right. And then 2025 potentially could see a bottleneck, although I do question whether a lot of these Marvel movies will actually make it into 2025. But let's play what if. Okay. So in 2024, which is not that far away from now, we're not going to have as many. We're going to get that one Marvel. We got Deadpool 3 coming out, and that's it. Will Marvel then release and finish off and release their Marvel, their MCU shows on Disney Plus? And then will they cut back for 2025 and beyond on releasing maybe 1 or 2 shows a year? Or do you think they're going to keep Feige's going to like, okay, now we've got the showrunner mentality. We're going to kind of keep pumping out these MCU Disney Plus series. Like, where do you see?
I think like Stu said,
not forget, they've got Daredevil is going to go back into production once they figure all that stuff out. They have Ironheart. God knows why. That is somewhere. We have Echo. We know is coming out in January. They also have Agatha, Agent of Chaos, or whatever she is. Right, so
the coldest, like frozen leftovers.
Those are already filmed. It's the new stuff. Like, that's already the bucket.
Agatha hasn't. They only filmed like a couple of episodes, and then the whole thing shut down. Like, they barely.
But they're not DC where they're like, John Cena, thanks for filming that movie. It's gone. So,
but Disney could though. There's no
you can't see me. So no, Disney, like, there's just that was a property that no one really cares about, but you can't. The Marvel shows, it's still, some people still care. So,
okay, so John, are we going to see the continuation?
No. I think Stu's right. Kevin Feige and those higher ups ate a bunch of humble pie, and the money's not there. Like, the people spoke with their purchases of tickets. We see the box office numbers for this entire slate, this entire phase, whatever the hell it's called, which I think people are tired of calling all these different Marvel phases as well. So they're gonna eat it, and the money is gonna be tight. So they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to downsize. They're gonna have to cut a lot of these shows. They're gonna have to release a bunch of these actors, actresses from these obligations, and they're gonna move on to other projects. There's no two ways about it. There's not even enough time. They're already strapped for time before this strike happened. We saw it with the filming of certain shows, Mandalorian, all that stuff, where they were filming back to back on the set, same time, across the lot, trying to slam all these things together. There's no time for them to do all these projects. So there's time and money. It's gone. The strike put a kibosh to that.
I think
100%.
John, to your point, I don't know if they can cancel it because let's be frank, there's gonna be less jobs because if the producers have to pay more, they're just gonna make less stuff. So like anytime it's like, a Marvel show still is a good gig, that it's better than like some of the other options you have. So
some indie unknown movie, right? An
it's
original
like,
rom-com.
and at the end of the day, it's like, if you are somewhat of an established actor, doing 8 episodes is better than 26 on ABC. Yeah. Like as much as it's good, it's like, but it's a grind, man. When you're on like, a large 22 episode, 26 episode, like ABC
We've
show.
heard lots of interviews, actors and people working on those shows. It's a lot of work to do a TV show. So if they have to truncate that time deal, what about you, Rob? Rob, you've always said quality over quantity, diluting the brand, all that kind of stuff. Is this what you wanted to see happen then? If this is what happens,
Yeah, here's what I suspect. Like I think we're gonna see the repercussions won't be felt really until 2025, 26. Right? Like that's, I know it sounds weird to say 2026, but that's where I think it. And I think what's going to happen is all these streaming services are going to have to cut back on a lot of the stuff that they're doing, thankfully, but they're going to charge us more. Right. So like
we won't everyone's already more. Everyone in this audience probably is on the verge of canceling their Disney Plus.
Yeah, well, that's going up huge.
You've probably considered it. $40. You've probably considered over the last month or two. You've probably considered canceling that Disney Plus subscription.
Yeah,
not me.
Right?
100%. No, I'm 100% in.
So I think you're going to see a drop in the number of shows, which I would be very happy with because I thought about this the other day. I've seen so much shit, and I always like I finish the stuff and I'm like
meaning bad stuff, meaning bad stuff, not just quantity.
Like Twisted Metal, right? Like seriously,
it's good.
No. Like why do we have this? What is the purpose of this? Oh, it's like, it's an IP. People will know about it because they played the game back in the 90s. Let's make a TV show out of it, right? Oh, okay, great. Like you're just squandering all this crap. Like if you go back to then making a good movie, we don't need. What happened to Halo season 2? I don't even know if that's even a thing anymore. Right?
Like, we don't want it. It's gone.
I think at the end of the day, like if the Marvel shows rebudget themselves, like a lot of those, the Daredevil show. Some of those street level people, like if they just don't make it crazy CGI, like those original Netflix shows weren't expensive because they were grounded and they weren't using crazy stuff. Like they weren't massive CGI battles. It's basically dudes fighting in a hallway. If they maintain that level of standard, it's actually going to be okay. The moment you get in trouble is basically Winter Soldier or like freaking Secret Invasion, where they basically was a CGI fest of like everyone turning into scrolls and doing stuff. You're like, okay, that's where the money went. Or She-Hulk. It's like, oh, she turned to She-Hulk. I'm like, yep, that's where all the money went. You can do it. You can save some money if it's less, basically like a CW show. And if that's fine, I'm fine with that. If it's done tastefully to make some Marvel shows that way and just make it where, same thing. Like Agatha shouldn't be that crazy.
But it shouldn't be a show at all. It shouldn't be. So this is going to be into my last question for you guys. Is that me personally? I don't think we need Agatha. Nobody cares about WandaVision stuff anymore. Like a lot of the Moon Knight, nobody cares about these stuff. Like these things have like farts in the wind. They've come and gone, and you're like, what was that? And it's gone. Nobody cares. So do you think now that going forward, we talked about how Feige has eaten lots of humble pie in the last few years. And if he ought to go back to the Feige of 2008 and, forward and say, wow, like look at how much of a idea and a roadmap we had these original movies. So do you think they're going to do away with a lot of the crap like Secret Invasion? Will that be like retcon to have never existed? We know that Echo is going to be under this Marvel Spotlight banner, which will mean that it's not really tied to the MCU proper. I don't know. So do you think now that they will just retcon some of these things and say this stuff doesn't exist anymore? We don't need it. And I think I would be more than happy if they did cancel Agatha Agent of Chaos. I don't Covenant of Chaos, whatever it's called. We don't need it. I don't care. So do you think they're going to retcon and say all the shit that you guys spent the last couple of years watching? Nope. Or are we stuck with it all?
Not you piss off everyone. What you can do is
who saw it? Most people didn't watch most of that shit. Who are you pissing off?
People did. I think the best option you could say is, remember when we said we're all connected? tangentially connected. Like you're like third cousins. You'll see each other at the family reunion, and you'll be like, oh, if you want to know, go by and like sit at the table and catch up if you want to. I think that's the way they're gonna go. Like we're gonna be tangentially connected. Like, hey, if you want to watch more, there's a show you watch, but it's not required viewing like as they initially said it, where everything's connected. You have to watch everything. That was when it was actually doable. It's 2 movies a year. You're like, I can do this. But it became like shows, movies, blah, blah, blah. It became like a second religion. You just said, this is not for me. And it's too daunting to get someone new to come into the universe if you're like too much. If it's like a buffet, same. There's everything here, but like, you know, hey, you can go to the Moon Knight buffet and grab what you want, but like here's the steak and potatoes is these Avengers movies. Fine.
Yeah, great. Oh, I love that Moon Knight buffet. I also wouldn't mind me some more Eternals buffet. Hey, what's happening with Dane Whitman? No idea, because guess what? They haven't made any announcement for the next few years of any of that shit coming back. So it's irrelevant.
I don't know what it is, and there's like in Miss Marvel, same thing. Like in the Marvels movie, there's stuff that comes up, and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect to see this person again, and there it was. So like at the end of the day, you're like, cool. Like there's something also nuanced to have a surprise, Rob, and I think that's what we're genuinely missing, so much so that we're so connected now, where like every cameo and everything that comes across. I kind of would like to not be genuinely. Every once in a while, be genuinely surprised, because when the trade's announced someone's going to be in a movie, you're like, well, I know. So like it's nice actually to have a surprise from time to time.
Well, right now, I guess Marvel will be hoping for a surprise box office win. John, where do you see?
I think Stu's right. Like they've already established it so hard that they can't go and just start going, hey, ignore this, ignore that. But I think if they're smart, they're going to start weaning everybody off it, and realize that this has also created an expectation of all new projects to tie this in, to tie to that end credit scene, to that after credit scene, to tie into the next thing. I hope someone in there is going, hey, you know what? We keep doing this, and all it's doing is raising this bar up, and everyone's expecting so much from this show. It can't exist, like we said, as a smaller project, like the Echo Spotlight, which looks actually pretty solid from the trailer we've seen, and some of the other movies that we've seen coming. And it was nice, like Stu said, it's nice to watch something and not have to have a whole bunch of crap attached to it. I think if they're smart, they have to start walking away from that. I don't think they can, like you said, wipe the slate. But yeah,
you're right, John, because they've done it small. Like the Werewolf by Midnight, it was a special presentation. That Guardians of the Galaxy was a special presentation. Like
so there's lower expectations for those things,
because they're like, oh, this is the next special thing. Even the song in the beginning was like, oh, this is not what it is. And to your point, Echo's going to be Spotlight. All they have to do is like add something a front of the show and be like, oh, this is something else, and then you don't need to worry about it anymore.
Well, here's what's going to happen. 2024 is going to come out. Deadpool's going to come out next July. It's going to do gangbusters. It's going to be a breath of fresh air for Marvel. And then February 14th, 2025 is going to roll around with Captain America 4, New World Order. And people are like, oh, this is the same old Marvel crap. And what's going to happen? James Gunn is going to come in, fly in with Superman Legacy that July. And you're going to see the tide shift, and DC will take control of the power set. And Marvel will be left wondering, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong?
I will be very surprised that it happened. I think right now
it's way more possible than it ever was.
Superman, we'll see. Like it's going to be a hard one.
Don't do it, Rob. Don't jinx it.
Yeah, like man, yeah. We know one thing for sure. If Marvel is so far down the line and they're so screwed, they're like, you know what, Ryan, do what you think, because we're screwed already. And they've had the propensity to let the directors kind of just go ad hoc, because Kevin Feige can't control everything on his own.
Yep.
We'll see what happens. Like I imagine it's going to be, again, if he has the opportunity to bring everyone he wants in this film, and cameos, and like everything is on the table for this movie.
Yep.
It is going to be an Avengers style movie where people are going to, like, an event where people are going to line up and go to the theater and take pictures and be part of that. And Ryan Reynolds is going to do a big campaign, social media campaign before it too. So like, it's going to be something where It may not be better than Superman Legacy, but my man, oh man, is it more people going to watch it probably because
no, it'll be good.
the kids will do it. Like the kids want to see it. I'm sure your son would be like, if you had a choice between this and Superman, he'd be like, Dad, we're going to Deadpool. Like, not even a choice.
Well, yeah, but he's not into he doesn't know all the old X-Men stuff as well. Like, this is where I think the nostalgia thing does.
Ryan Reynolds. Like, he doesn't know who's Superman again? Like, is he going to even know who the new Superman is? Like, who's Superman?
There's like watch this Netflix series called Hollywood, all right, son? You'll understand.
Who's Superman? Who's again? My question was talking about big actors. Like, who's Superman? Like, is it gonna be another Brendan? God bless Brendan Routh, but it's hard to be Superman, especially if you're unknown. So let's it's gonna be really hard to be an unknown to be Superman.
All right, guys. I want to thank all those who are still in the chat with us and those who have left or who are listening afterwards. Thank you so very much. You can join us every Sunday night live, 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever we are, daylight or saving assignment, whatever, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Hey, man, I gotta say, Stu, it was so fun having you back on. We've missed you, man. I'm gonna speak on behalf of John, but
I found out we were canceled today when you guys are talking everything past tense. So
we're on hiatus.
We haven't canceled the podcast.
Is this how it is on live? So you can't see me freak out and be like, "Wait a second, you're canceling me? What happened? What did I say?" I see the tricks right now. It's like an intervention where we're like, "Stu, we gotta talk to you about something. You're buying too many Pokemon cards." And we're like, "What? What are you talking about?" It's just one fact. So yeah, thanks for letting me down gently.
No, we would love to reignite the Heroes World.
Yeah, Lewis, I got fired on stream. That's pretty much. I was not fired. I was I think John's gonna reissue me another position within the Heroes World organization. So he's like, silent partner. He's like, you're gonna be a silent partner, very silent. There you go.
Know that you are loved.
Here's a gift basket on your way out. Know that you're loved, but not here. Not here. Thanks, guys.
We love to have you back on again. John, any parting words? Anything you any words of wisdom coming out of
as always, all this stuff would not be possible if not for Stu getting on us to do this type of content and hanging out at the store and realizing, hey, you know what, there's a lot of stuff going on here that people would like to listen into. I'm sure if you've stumbled across us chatting in the store, it's almost like you've attended a podcast. So that's the origin of all these things. He drove us to do this podcast and return it during the pandemic, which has reignited all this stuff and all this technology that we can now meet and not have to physically rearrange everyone's schedule to be in one spot. Although I think we do have to get together and do a one in person, at least maybe a couple times a year or something like that, because there's a special magic that happens. We're in the same room. If we can dig up the archives of those original podcasts, there's some really funny stuff.
There needs to be one.
Some really funny stuff. So look for maybe a live stream. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it in 2024, but maybe that's it. Maybe the Heroes World podcast takes over the in-person version, and then we save our marbles for there. But anyways, yeah, thanks as always, Stu, for always doing this stuff for us. The amount of things that Stu has helped us out with at store, and behind the scenes and in shop and all that kind of stuff has always been phenomenal, fantastic. And the same to Rob, all these things that you guys do for us is amazing. And as always, all you guys that tune in the chat daily or tune into the podcast when we drop those, thank you so much. It's always so fun.
Yeah, thank you, John, for the Oscar in memoriam segment. I appreciate that.
We needed. No one got the slideshow ready of the music with Stew's face.
It's like, okay, are you gonna play Shania? Is it gonna be this one? What's my in memoriam song? Is it gonna be? It's gonna be. It's got to be In the Arms of an Angel, right? It's got to be. It's got to be that one. Yeah. It's got
something really off to the wall.
Yeah. It's got to be Canadian content. It has to be some sort of it's Sam McLaughlin style song that's played in the background while I'm rolled off the stage. So no, I appreciate it, guys. I miss you too. We'll get together soon. Thank you.
Yeah. We'll reunite soon. Thank you as always. Thank you, Mr. Rob. Thank you, Stu, for coming on. Thank you, everybody in the chat. We will be back next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll figure out what comes after that. So that's it, right, Rob? That's all we got
That's
tonight.
it. That's
Yeah,
all we
thanks
got,
for everyone
man.
staying. Peace out.
See you guys.